Everybody, welcome back to this episode of Think Business Live. I'm looking really forward to this talk with Dr. Jason Novetsky. Jason, it's great to connect with you.
Thanks, John.
Champion Mindset Group, sport and performance psychology coaching. There's so much to talk about. I just want to kind of give a quick review of you as a sport and performance psychology coach. You subscribe to the notion that talent is overemphasized and mental toughness is the competitive advantage that creates champions. There's a lot more you do, and we'll get into that. But I want to talk about that. Think community. I just want everyone to pause for just a moment. On this show, we, and as a business coach, I work with successful people who are stuck, and I get them unstuck. And on our show, I bring on guests to not only give you insights, but to give you that one thing that can get you unstuck. And mindset specifically is something we talk about a lot. And so let's talk about mental toughness and what that means today. We're all coming, Jason, out of this, 2.5-year lockdown pandemic, COVID. It required a lot of mental toughness. I think people's mental toughness is higher than it's probably been. But talk about what mental toughness is and how you maintain it.
Well, to me, John, mental toughness is our ability to stay in the present moment despite numerous distractions, what we call in the industry mental traps, things that we tend to over-focus on that are, for the most part, outside of our power or outside of our control or circle of influence, whatever buzzword you want to use. But it's our ability to stay within that moment and focus on what's important. Our attitude, our effort, our preparation, what is the best move in this particular situation that we're in? Yeah. And can we control that move? And if not, what do we need to make that happen?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So I love what you just shared. And, this summer I've been golfing a lot and playing a lot of tennis and watching the US Open and Wimbledon. And you see even at Wimbledon, at the US Open, when the crowd is cheering for one, how mentally it affects the opponent. But I want to talk to you about that because when you talk about in the moment, right, and controlling the moment, we all have, in community, you can Google this, but we have about 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. 80% of them are negative, and 98% repeat themselves every single day. Plus, we have the voice of our mom, our dad, our uncle, our grandma, our grandpa, right? And so talk about how do you actually get back to center, get grounded, and the key word I think that you said for me is control it.
Well, it's tough to control a lot of things, but we can control certain things within ourselves. So to me, the key to being present is being prepared for those situations. First and foremost, we need to be proactive. We also have to have kind of in the moment rituals, routines, or performance cues that we need to have to keep us present, and also need to have some things on the back end when adversity strikes, because we know things aren't always going to be perfect. Yeah. So I work with my athletes on, first and foremost, understanding what pressure is so they can learn how to recognize it. What are their personal, what we call mental traps, so they can notice those things quicker and learn how to recognize and then replace those ineffective thought patterns with more productive thought patterns. And a lot of that comes with preparation. So we do a lot of what we call pre-mortem work. Instead of post-mortem, we do pre-mortem. What do you expect that's going to be there? What are some potential distractions? What are you going to be facing? Let's talk that through. Let's over-prepare for all those situations, because when they come up, and they will, you are at least going to be more able to recognize those things quicker and bring yourself back to that point or that present moment in your meeting, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I love everything you're talking about. Let's talk about over-preparing. I think there's so many people who just wing it. There's so many people who, that game day is the practice day. And you said something earlier, which I'm a big fan of, which is, creating routines that you can bring out in the moment. I'd like to kind of bridge those two thoughts, if you can kind of expand on in the moment routines and how and just how you over prepare.
Well, To me, the preparation obviously begins, again, I work with mostly athletes, so it's all about physical preparation, mental preparation. So obviously the physical preparation is handled by their actual coaches in terms of their physical tools, but we can mentally prepare a lot by using things like imagery, visualization, breath work. We can do things like concentration drills. We have what we call pre-night routines. So the night before an event or a game or a match, we have a checklist of things that we can do. So when we hit the pillow that night, we can sleep more soundly because we know things are taken care of. And I'm talking about simple things like, hey, get your gear ready, double check things, know what time you're leaving, eat right, sleep right, hydrate, stretch, all those kind of things. Go over your game plan, get a good night's sleep. And then when you wake up that next morning, you're going to feel a lot less stressed because you know everything is under control as much as you possibly can, and you can just focus on playing. Now, I will say as a caution, we don't want to prepare to the point where we're getting psyched up too soon. We're trying to peak at the right moment. So we don't want to get overly prepared where we're just like chomping at the bit to go too soon, because then we're going to not be ready when we get there. And then when you talk about the in the moment routines, those are things like performance routines. So like you mentioned tennis. So we would call that a pre-point routine. Hey, what are you going to do before every single point for like a reset to get locked back in? So for example, if you're serving, take a nice deep breath. What's the situation here in this game? What's my target on this serve? Quick visualization of where I want this ball to go. Bounce, 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 toss, and serve.
Yeah.
Same thing if you're receiving. We do this all the time with basketball players at the free throw line, baseball players before every pitch, hockey players before a shift, and on and on and on. So we can be in the present moment because, John, if we're in that moment using those routines, then we're not focused on all those mental traps. Like, what are other people thinking of me? What happened in the past? What's going to happen down the road? We got to learn. We're not going to block things out. We're going to focus on what's important now, which essentially does block those things out.
I love it. I want to go back to, getting your stuff ready the night before, this and the other. This is, I as a business coach, I always like to get things to the simple. I always like to keep things to a kindergarten to second grade level. And the things that you mentioned are kindergarten to second grade level, right? But yet one of my favorite books, I don't know if you read it, Jason, is The Art of War by Stephen Pressfield. And and the book talks about why we resist what we need to do most. So you're talking about, 3 minutes of stuff earlier and that kind of like, but why, how do you get your athletes to overcome resistance?
Well, first and foremost, we have to help them understand why they're doing what they're doing. They got to have a sense of purpose in what they love about their craft or their sport, where it comes down to the sight, sound, feels. Because if we don't have that connection, there's going to be really tough days and we're going to lose focus on those things. When you talk about resistance, are you referring to adversity moving forward?
I'm talking about resistance of, I'm not going to lay my clothes out because it'll only take 4 seconds. I'm not going to do this because this will take 2 minutes and I'll do it in the morning. But 2 minutes the night before, it takes 7 minutes in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what you're referring to is just that I don't feel like it.
Correct.
At this
Correct.
moment.
Yeah.
And we start with the premise, look, you can do anything you want, but you can't do everything you want. And so if you really want to be successful, then you're going to have to do what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, the way it's supposed to be done, even when you don't feel like it. And to me, that's the difference between being average and being elite, is when you cross that threshold and you push through that feeling of being uncomfortable. Yeah. And there's an old saying in my field, and I didn't coin it, so I'm not taking credit for it, but you have to learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Wait, say that line again, because I want everybody to hear it. You can do everything you want.
You can do anything you want. You just can't do everything you want. So you're going to have to make some sacrifices, and some of those sacrifices are not feeling good sometimes.
Right.
It's being disciplined in what requires you to be successful. There's no choices in the path to success. Yeah, there really aren't. There's certain ways you're going to have to do it, whether you like it or not. Yeah, many people have said that. So, to say that there's all these different ways to get there, well, when you really look at the successful people, they take their talent and they multiply it by deliberate, focused effort and practice and discipline. Yeah, and that's how they become skilled in what they're doing.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Let's talk about visualization. You've mentioned that a couple of times.
Sure.
And I'd like to talk about visualization, and I'd like to talk about meditation. And because in some ways they go hand in hand. And so just can you kind of talk about, the power of visualization, like true visualization, and taking the time to really visualize it, not necessarily visualize it while you're multitasking 15 other things.
Yeah. Well, this is one of my favorite topics and one of the staples that we work on here in my office with my clients, and we literally practice it together in the office. So quick background, visualization imagery has been around forever. It's not a new thing. Serious athletes, serious people in their craft use visualization for many reasons: to mentally prepare and to build confidence and to fix mistakes in their own mindset.
Yeah.
So what we now know, there's over 130 published research studies about the importance of visualization and what it does. And we all talk about that mind-body connection. So there's studies, the easiest way to explain it is they took fMRI, brain imaging, of athletes performing a task, for example, making free throws. And they brain scanned, and they took the collaboration of these different scans, and they could see in the brain where things are firing, which parts of the brain are hot, so to speak. And then they took a totally separate group of athletes, and they taught them how to do true visualization, beginning with a brief meditation, moving into visualization. And they also scanned their brains while they were visualizing. The brains looked almost identical in where the hot spots were. Not exactly, but close. So what that shows us is the brain doesn't really know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And we know to get really good at something, it requires repetition. So the more repetitions you can get by physically practicing and mentally practicing, you're going above and beyond what somebody else is not doing. So you have a competitive advantage by visualizing more. And the best part about it is you get to control the visualization. You're the writer, director, actor in your own movie. That mental movie you're watching, you get to see yourself perform successfully. Now, nobody's promising it's going to turn out exactly how you visualize it, but you're building confidence, you're building repetitions. The research also shows that the neurons are firing all over the body just as if you were physically performing. So it's truly amazing, the power of visualization.
Now let's I loved everything you just had to share. Talk to the Think community about, what type of, environment you want to be in when you're visualizing. Is it quiet? Is it walking? Is it meditative? Is it meditating? What are your suggestions?
Yeah. I mean, if you really want to do a true deep visualization, if you are mentally preparing for an event, something important to you, then clearly you want to be in a quiet environment where you're not going to be interrupted. You do want to go through some breath work, some what we call, scanning of the body mentally to help you slow things down. And what I explain to my athletes is the breath work and the relaxation phase is like stretching before you work out.
Yeah.
So you're trying to slow everything down, slow the heart rate down, slow the breathing down, be in the complete present moment. And then when you feel ready, turn on that movie in your mind. And real important, John, is you want to see it from your point of view, like you're there. You want to try to feel the ball in your hand or see yourself with the crowd in front of you if you're doing a pitch for business. Feel that your feet on the ground, hear the buzz of the air conditioner, see the PowerPoint screen behind you. Everything from your point of view is the best way to visualize.
Yeah. I love everything you're talking about. I've been meditating since I was 27. And it's been huge for me. And it's part of my routine is meditating before my day, first thing in the morning, meditating before meetings, getting kind of a vibe for the energy of what is potentially coming my way.
Absolutely.
So I think there's so much power in what you're talking about. You focus on the importance, and you've talked about a lot of this, growth mindset, self-image, mindfulness, emotional control, relaxation, imagery, motivation, confidence, setting proper goals, routines, as you talked about, developing a mental workout. I want to talk about emotional control. I think one of the things, and I talk about this a lot, Jason, in business is, you want to respond, not react. Adults respond, children react. But yet sometimes the emotional control I've been playing. I was sharing with you, I play a lot of golf.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I always want to get better.
Yeah.
My handicap is in the mid-20s. It doesn't faze me at all. I'm always getting better. I'm focused on the next stroke.
Sure.
And then but some people get so, can lose the emotional control, with a bad shot or a bad stroke. Same thing with tennis, basketball, any game. How do you control your emotions? I mean, you've talked a little bit earlier about some of the routines and things, but emotional control is so important.
Yeah, honestly, you don't ever control them. You manage them. Right. And I think that goes along with, we have to manage our expectations and also try to understand, why are we getting so upset?
Yeah.
Where's that coming from? Where's that pressure coming from? And typically it's because we're so concerned about what other people think, or we might let somebody down, or we're going to be embarrassed. And at the end of the day, John, emotions in competitive situations make you weak.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant used to talk about, you need to think tactically, not emotionally.
Yeah.
Focus on what's the best next move. We're not loving to win or hating to lose. We're playing to figure things out.
Yeah.
And so if you're always asking yourself, all right, well, what's the wise question here? What could I have done a little differently there?
Yeah.
And why am I really doing this? And when we start exploring those things, the emotions kind of melt away because we're just focused on what's next. And we want to stay neutral in our emotions. So a lot of people, come to me, John, and they'll say, well, you're probably going to tell me all the time to be positive about everything. And I go, that's probably furthest from the truth. I'm not.
Right.
I'd rather you be positive than negative.
Right.
But I'd rather you think tactically and neutrally about, what do you need to do to have the best chance of success?
Yeah.
And within that, what are you really good at? What can you control at this moment? And what do you need to work on?
Yeah.
And when we stay focused on those things, the emotions kind of melt away.
Yeah. Yeah. I read a book. You're reminding me of a book I read, oh my God, it must have been 20 years ago. It was called Mastery. I can't think of the guy's name. I want to say it was George something or other. I can't remember. But it talked about living on a plateau, and that sometimes it can be boring, but you prevent the highs and the lows and the roller coaster. And that is mastery. And I love the book, and it's such a, it had such a great impact on me, similarly to the Art of War by Stephen Pressfield, because I love books.
I think you mean The War of Art.
The War of Art. Yeah.
Art of War was Sun Tzu.
Correct. The War of Art. The War of Art. Because I love books that can define something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Define a word. And that's what I love about, Jason, guys like you and companies like yours. You can help define something, put a model around it, and help somebody who's been suffering from years of something get a new lens and a new perspective of something, and help accelerate the redefining of it. And so you work with a lot of teams, and high school teams, junior teams, athletes, major teams, et cetera. Where do you find is, the biggest hiccup with everyone? Like you said earlier, being, uncomfortable from, people seeing you fail, or those were your exact words. But where's something where you see, wow, that right there, when I share this with people, that's like where I get the biggest aha moment of their mental shift?
So I keep coming back to that idea of the mental traps. It's one of the hallmarks of the things that we discuss, and it keeps popping up throughout the sessions that I work with teams and athletes, is anxiety is a result of over-focusing on things you can't control. Mm-hmm. And so when people realize, and I give them a list, and we go through one by one, and I'll ask them, do you find that you overthink this thing? Do you overthink this concept, or when this happens in a game? And they realize, wow, look at all the things that I am focused on that are distracting me from doing what I need to do. Yeah. And when you really think about these things on this list, they're completely outside of our power. And so again, it's about accepting that you're going to have those thoughts from time to time. We're never going to eliminate them. We can't just turn the brain off. I really get disturbed when coaches say, just don't think. Yeah. Well, you can't not think.
It's impossible.
But you can, but you can choose to think more productively and effectively. And so notice those mental traps by studying them, paying more attention. You know, the buzzword is being more mindful and aware, and it comes from doing meditation and work like that behind the scenes. So when these thoughts pop up, you're like, oh, you know, there I go again. I'm thinking about something I can't control. And then quickly be prepared to return your focus to what you can control in that moment. And so that is like the big, you know, aha for people to say, okay, that's what I need to work on first. And obviously another topic that comes up a lot is how to manage your confidence and put deposits in that bank of confidence a lot, and use good body language and good self-talk and being prepared and self-evaluation. All those things help build confidence as well.
You know, so many things what you're saying are just kind of keep on triggering so many books. But as you're talking, the 4 agreements, which is, don't make assumptions, don't take things personally, be impeccable with your word, which is, what it's also saying is be impeccable with your word to yourself. And so I love everything that you're talking about.
Thank you.
All right, Jason, quick speed round. You ready?
Okay.
All right. A book that's had the biggest impact on you.
Oh my goodness. Well, one recently is The Confident Mind by Nate Zinsser. And I would also say It Takes What It Takes by Trevor Moawad.
Oh, It Takes What It Takes is a good one. I've read that one. But what was the first one? I want to read that.
The Confident Mind, Nate Zinsser. He is the performance coach at West Point.
Okay. Oh,
brilliant stuff.
Best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
Control what you can control.
I love it. I love it. Finish this sentence. The first thing somebody can do to shift their mindset is?
Oh, let's see. The best thing you can do to shift your mindset is what we call amora fati, which comes from Stoicism, which, another great book, The Obstacle is the Way, Ryan Holiday.
So good.
Which is just make the best out of every situation. Take it for what it is and use every obstacle as an opportunity to better yourself.
Yeah, it's awesome. Champmindset.com. Jason, tell everybody where they can connect with you and who your ideal clients are.
Yeah, so champmindset.com is the website. You can reach me on there. All my contact info is on there. And what I do essentially, John, is I work with athletes as young as 12 years old, all the way up to professional athletes, teams, coaches. I see about 20 to 25 individual athletes in my office every week. And then when I'm not here, I'm usually out working with teams or walking the golf course with an aspiring golfer, things like that. I work with all different sports, boys and girls, men and women. So if you're interested in having a better mindset and performing better and the things you love to do, then I'd be more than willing to work with you.
I love it. I love it. Jason, I can't thank you enough. This was great. This was like kind of a mini, not even a mini, I'm going to say a master's class.
Oh boy.
Mindset. Think Community. We talk a lot about mindset. And when the pandemic hit, many of you watched my mindset series that I had with Randy Denhaw every Wednesday that we did for about a year. And mindset is so critical. And there's so many things that I think will get people unstuck of everything you talked about. But one thing that I just want to extract that resonated deeply with me is know your mental traps. When you know them, to me, Think Community, when you raise your awareness on something, everything begins to change, right? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so it always starts, I think, with a lot of awareness. I appreciate everything you shared today. It was great. Champmindset.com. If Jason can help you, JonDwoskin.com. If I can help you. Jason, any last thoughts?
I just want to thank you, John, for having me on. It was great to catch up with you, and I hope this was helpful for anybody listening.
Yeah, thank you to Jeff Kukowski for
that's right
for telling me about you. So
thank you.
Yes, it was great. All right, thanks everybody.